Hello people of Mine and Drive, and welcome to Driver San Francisco. Today I'm just going to do sort of a drive about in San Francisco, and I'm going to talk about the Driver series, including what might be happening next in the Driver series. So to start off, Driver 2 was actually the first game of Driver that I ever played. I think it was back in... It could have been around the time when Driver 2 came out, actually. If not a year later. I did not own a PlayStation at the time, so that was around 2000 area. And I played it at a friend's house and absolutely loved it, and I played it like a lot. And then one day it was like, they were like, oh, we're selling our PlayStation, because it was like the original PlayStation, not the PlayStation 1, like the proper rectangular PlayStation. We're selling that, and like, how much do you want it? And then I think they gave me Driver 2 with it as well, so I bought that off them, and I played it lots. And then I found Driver one day. I mean, I still prefer Driver 2 over Driver. Personally, I think it's just because it's obviously the first game that I ever played that was like sort of car related in an open world city, and I just love driving around, being chased by the cops, and I think also jumping out of the car as well was one of the things why I liked it as well, because you could actually run around in Driver 2. And I've always loved like playing cars when I was little or anything like that. But yeah, I think Driver 2 is better than Driver 1 in many ways, but also it has flaws in it, obviously. I bought Driver 1 probably a couple of years later. I didn't mind it. I just wanted to drive around, play the new cities. I wasn't bothered about missions. And then I bought Driver 3 for Xbox, and I played that a lot as well. I probably played that the most, apart from Driver San Francisco. And Driver 3, for me, I liked it, but I could see why like a lot of people, like maybe original Driver fans or just people in general, didn't like it, because it was an extremely glitchy game. I thought it was a good game, and but it was obviously extremely glitchy. The police AI were a bit dodgy, to say the least, rubber band AI, which is kind of a shame, really, because if Driver 3, because Driver 3 was, and the same with Driver 2, really, they were both rushed to be put on the shelves of shops. Apparently Driver 2 was originally meant to come out on the PS2, but it came out on the original PS1. Not really the developer's fault, which is Reflections, or now Ubisoft Reflections. More of the publisher, Atari. We'll blame them for rushing to get a Driver game out. And they did the same with Driver 3, really, I think. But like I said, I enjoyed Driver 3 for what it was, and it did have many flaws in it again, but I think it was because I never really played any of the GTA series. I'm not bothered about that. I don't play shooter games or anything like that. More the driving type of things. Oh my god! And then Driver Parallel Lines came out, which in a way is sort of like what Driver 3 should have been, apart from it was only set in one city and had a different character. But I enjoyed Driver Parallel Lines. I was disappointed that film director wasn't in it, because if you go on my channel that much, you may notice that I like using the film director of San Francisco quite a bit. This film director from Driver San Francisco is not as good as the older ones. A lot less views, camera changes or anything or stuff like that. But yeah, Driver Parallel Lines, I like that. It was it better than Driver 3? In terms of like gameplay wise, I'd say yes. Like, for example, the AI was pretty good in it. The crashes I didn't think were that spectacular. I thought Driver 3 was a bit better. Also in Driver Parallel Lines you could mod out your car a little bit, so you could add nitrous and all that. And the shooting was greatly improved. I mean, like in Driver 3 they added the whole shooting, and I'm being followed here, the whole shooting stuff, guns and everything, driving boats, driving bikes. They brought part of that back in Driver Parallel Lines. There was no swimming, there was no boats, you couldn't even jump. Like your character, you couldn't even jump up in the air. You could run around and shoot and that, and it actually worked quite well. If they did that for what in Driver 3, I think Driver 3 would have been probably one of the best driver games. And then obviously there was a 5-year gap. There was like, I think there was Driver LA, or no, Driver 76, and little games that came out on portable devices or mobiles or whatever. Then eventually, after 5 years of Parallel Lines being out, Driver San Francisco came out, and I was quite excited. I did like see the previews for it, like how it's showing shift and all that, and it did actually change quite a bit from what we first see in 2010 of the game. I might do a later video here on this channel having a look at the differences between 2010 version of Driver San Francisco to the released version. But I don't know why I just like driving around. I think because also a lot of people complain like, oh, you can't shoot people in this game, can't get out your car. I mean, like, that's going back to what the original Driver was. You just, that's why it's called Driver, not GTA. And also they're saying like, oh, you can't run over people in this game. Well, you couldn't do that in the original first 2 Drivers. And plus, the reason why they've done it for this game, that you can't run people over, is because there were licensed cars in the game. And obviously the people who own like Dodge or the other Ford and that, they won't allow you to make a game where you can actually run over people in their cars. So I'm not bothered about running people over anyway. I just like the car chase action, which I do think like Driver 3 sort of lost slightly, because there was a lot of like story missions which were on foot and on boats and that, which I didn't really enjoy that much. I didn't mind it because it didn't like completely ruin the whole game or anything like that, but I would have definitely preferred driving. And onto quite a upsetting subject now of the fact that the Driver series, it may have come to an end, or it'll be a very long time until we see a new Driver game. And I'm like not making that up because there hasn't been a Driver game for 3 years, a new Driver game for 3 years. I'm simply saying that because a few like magazine articles, some even posted on Ubisoft Reflections Facebook page, saying that they're not really focusing on making a Driver game like anytime soon. I'll leave links in the description below where you can actually read a magazine article, and they've said it on actually a few like websites, like on other magazine articles and that, because basically this Driver San Francisco was their big game. I think their first maybe big game with Ubisoft, because they weren't with Ubisoft back when Parallel Lines came out. It wasn't long after that they joined Ubisoft, but not when it came out. And that guy's still being chased around. And so yeah, it was nice to see like they still hadn't forgotten about it, because they go on about would they like to see a return? And it's just like, well, they're not really focusing on making any big games like themselves, because Reflections, if you do not know, is a little company based in Newcastle in England. And so yeah, I'm back. What was I saying? Yes, Ubisoft Reflections, their studio majority of their studio, the people there would have been working on Driver San Francisco, because it would have been a big game, and they were the only ones who previously worked on the Driver games. Ubisoft is just a publisher, so that Ubisoft themselves, like the main company, don't make the games. It's like Ubisoft Reflections, and then there's Ubisoft somewhere else in the world as well. There's quite a few of them, and Newcastle is the one that focuses on Driver. And they've also been focusing in on the Crew, helping hand really. They've been helping hand for quite a few games for Ubisoft titles, whether it be like Assassin's Creed, I think, also Watch Dogs they helped out on. They also make Just Dance, so they've been really focusing on other projects which aren't Driver. So we probably won't see another Driver game another couple of years. I mean, there was 5 years distance between Parallel Lines and San Francisco, so will there be another 5 years between that? I would like to say that would be the limit. Maybe not much longer to wait for another Driver game. I wouldn't want to wait 6 years. I know that's only 1 year longer, but it's still a whole year. So yeah, there seems like, I mean, in the magazine article it says that seemingly the Driver series seemingly retired on a high with the 2011's Driver San Francisco. Maybe I just don't want to think like it has retired, the series, but I'm hoping they'll come back to it. They say like, if we're gonna Reflections say if they're gonna like focus on another big game that's just made by them sort of thing, it could be Driver or it could be something brand new. They just don't know. Would they be willing to make another Driver if it's the right thing to make? Yes, they would, but they've not really said like, oh yes, we are making a new Driver. Personally, I don't think they're making a Driver. They might be coming up with, no, I don't think they're really. It's such a big part of the company though that you'd think that they'd probably go, let's make it, but obviously they've got to do what Ubisoft says, so they might make one. I think they will make one, but we'll be waiting for quite a few years still, which is kind of disappointing, but it also makes me interested to see what direction the Driver series would take, since like this game has the shift feature and he's in a coma. They can't really bring back the whole coma thing again, because that would be just stupid, I think personally. I think bringing it in to show what shift does in a coma was sort of an okay idea. Obviously not a lot of people agreed with that idea as well, which I completely understand. There's nothing original from the other Drivers or anything like that. It's a bit silly. But maybe for future Driver series, maybe you play as Shift. That would be a nice idea, which someone came up with on a Driver forum called Driver Madness. Basically they're saying like you play as Shift, so then you can take over multiple roles, maybe primarily Tanner obviously, but also use Shift just to flick between different characters anyway in the world, which I think would be quite nice. Personally, I don't think that they should bring back shooting. I think they should stick with the driving, because that's what they're best at. But we shall wait and see, and I'm going to end this video there. I will, if this video gets enough likes, I will do another video maybe about the Crew, hoping to get that featured on my channel when it comes out. We'll wait and see. So I'll do another video about the Crew. If you are willing, if you're wanting to see that, please leave a comment below if you've gotten this far into the video. So yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye.